Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. How are you all doing out there? I think we've all seen this unprecedented shift in working cultures around the world, especially with hybrid working practices looking like they're here to stay. But spare a thought for businesses who must ensure that their security strategies are still fit for purpose. Because it seems that as long as I can remember, we've talked about going passwordless, but we'd never quite get there. But today, I want to share an inspirational story about a company called Yubico. And in case you didn't know, Yubico is the inventor of the world's first security key, which is called YubiKey. And it physically defends your online accounts from hackers with just one single step. And currently, YubiKeys protect more than 4,000 organisations worldwide. And I felt compelled to find out more. So today I've asked Niall from Yubico to join me on the podcast and discuss how hardware-based security keys are providing strong authentication while at the exact same time reducing friction at login, which is music to my ears, especially when you compare that scenario with multi-stage authentication protocols and the friction that can introduce sometimes. Now, on this podcast, we've recorded more than 2,300 interviews and covered just about every security issue that you can imagine. And I recently read that given a choice of allowing your friends to spend 15 minutes in your home unsupervised or 15 minutes unsupervised on your smartphone, nearly everyone said in the report, the home. Because the thought of having someone accessing their phone was just the stuff of nightmares. You hear my opinions every single day, but today I want to ask you, what annoys you about the lack of privacy online? And the fact that someone out there knows absolutely everything you do online, and whether you like it or not, that is your internet service provider. But if you wanted to stop your internet service provider from always looking over your shoulder and profiting from your data, well, I'm going to recommend Private Internet Access, which is the world's most transparent VPN provider with over 30 million downloads. I think it's the perfect software for staying private online because it hides your IP address and encrypts your internet connection. And it's easy to use. There are many apps available for all operating systems, and most attractive of all, PIA has servers in 84 countries and in all 50 states. One subscription can protect up to 10 devices at once. And the reason I say this is my son is currently touring Southeast Asia, and he told me that Private Internet Access protects him while he's working away on numerous networks and also allows him to access his favourite TV shows at home. But I want to hear your stories too. And if you too would like to enjoy all the benefits of Private Internet Access, now is the time to subscribe. Simply head to piavpn.com/techtalksdaily and get an 83% discount. Seriously, 83%. That works out at just $2.03 a month, because you'll get 4 extra months completely for free. But to activate it, you must go to piavpn.com/techtalksdaily for a truly private digital life. One last time, piavpn.com/techtalksdaily. So buckle up and hold on tight, because I'm going to beam your ears all the way to the UK, where you can join me and fellow Brit Niall, who's going to talk about all this and much more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Neil. So my name is Niall McConaughey, and I'm the Regional Sales Director for Yubico, looking after our large enterprise and government end users in the UK and Ireland.
First of all, a big welcome to the podcast. And we do have a bit of a tradition here, and I always like to find out more about the guest's origin story. And before we even started recording today, you mentioned you were, let's say, a bit of a rock star from the Britpop days. But so I want to take you back in time. Can you remember where your passion for tech came from, the moment that might have put you on this tech path, or ultimately, what's your origin story?
Yeah, well, I guess a little bit of a strange one. So as I mentioned, I left school. I was in a band at the age of 16 and did that for a number of years. But, you know, all the while still had to somehow earn a crust, because you don't earn a lot of money as a budding musician. So I actually ended up falling into sales, not really tech sales, but more telesales, let's say. And I was working for a company in Stockport, And myself and the lead guitarist in the band, who was a Microsoft certified programmer, was also working in Stockport. We used to car share. And after a couple of years, this was probably 98, 99, we just decided, bizarrely, that we should set up a web design company. So we borrowed £5,000 from his mum, and myself and my friend Miles, we just embarked on setting up a web design company. So this was in 2000 that we became a limited company, and this was the really early days of the internet, especially in deepest, darkest East Lancashire. We were still very much competing with Yellow Pages advertisements and fax machines, not emails. And I think back then, the big search engines were Yahoo, Lycos, and Excite.
Yes, Alta Vista as well.
Alta Vista, they were the big ones. I think Google was just starting to make a noise. In fact, I'm not sure if Google might have even been Yahoo's search engine. I think there's a connection there. Yeah. Can't quite remember, but yeah. So it was the internet and selling the services of the internet to the masses of Lancashire that really got me focused on that sort of tech, I guess you could call it. And within 5 years, we were quite successful. We'd grown from myself and Miles. There was a team of 26 of us by the time I sort of decided to chip my shares in and do something new. So yeah, that was fun times.
Wow, I wonder if I always ask that question. I mean, what a great origin story there. It's had it all from fax machines, early days of web, Britpop, and to where you are now. And of course, well, 2 years ago, I did speak with the founder of Yubico. But for listeners that did miss that conversation, would you mind just offering a quick overview of what Yubico is and the kind of problems you solve for your customers?
Yeah, so Yubico is a hardware security key manufacturer. And I guess we developed the world's first one-touch, one-time password authenticator that didn't require a client or a driver. And using the USB port, it identifies itself, as a keyboard. And this was really in response to one of our you mentioned Stina, or Stina's husband, Jacob, our two co-founders. This was in response to Jacob, who is an electronic computer engineer by trade. I think he was being sent SMS messages from his bank to manage his account, and he just thought that this was a very flawed and unsecure way of account security, and wanted to do something about it. So a clever chap, obviously very creative, and I think Stina, her background is a product designer. And sort of in 2008, the YubiKey 1 was released, and we're now on the YubiKey 5 series. So this is, a really, really good sort of success story to make the internet a safer place.
Fantastic. And one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast today was Yubico's research into cybersecurity in the work from anywhere era found that 42% of people feel more vulnerable due to cyber threats while working from home. And 39% actually feel completely unsupported by IT, while 62% reported not having completed cybersecurity training for remote work. Hey, can you expand on some of these findings and what you think needs to change here?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. Obviously, every organisation is different, and sometimes I feel that there can be a little bit of apathy. Yeah, I think maybe a case of I'll do something if stroke when I'm ever targeted or breached. And even though password management is very expensive, I still think companies need to be more proactive as opposed to reactive. And this can only come from being informed and educated, and I guess bothered about the threat landscape. I also think we use usernames and passwords being so ingrained into the way that we work with systems that the thought of trying to change this puts companies off, even though they know, or probably know, that this is the weakest link in their security stack. So for me, it be education. Educate the leaders, and this will filter down. And I guess educate from our point of view, where it's not that expensive. That's the thing. You don't need to rip everything out to become more secure. The YubiKeys work with what you've already got. That's the beauty of being ubiquitous or platform agnostic.
Yeah, and just listening to you now, I get so many flashbacks from my IT past and the painful cybersecurity compliance training.
Yeah.
But there's always somebody that would grab screenshots of all the answers, and everyone just hits next, next, next. So you're not solving anything there. But I'm curious, what are the most common cyber threats you see people facing right now?
Well, I do think that it's phishing and ransom attacks are still the most common.
Yeah.
And that's personal and business.
Yeah, I think that's something that will resonate with everyone listening. And I also read that you said that not all security is created equal. Can you expand on that?
Yes. Well, actually, the saying was, while MFA is better than a password, not all forms of MFA are created equal. Gotcha. And I guess by that, we mean basic approaches like SMS, mobile authentication, and one-time passcodes. They're all vulnerable to phishing and don't meet the requirements. So truly phishing-resistant forms of MFA are smart card, pave, and FIDO WebAuthn, and YubiKeys can deliver both those.
And I think the big thing that holds most people back from adopting any new solution is ease of use. We almost just want everything to work now instantly and remove friction from anything. And I recently read that with YubiKey, it's a hardware-based security key that provides strong authentication, but at the same time, reducing friction at login. And as well, I've spent a lot of time in IT. That friction at login is the biggest pain in the world. So can you explain to me how you do this, especially when compared to other multi-stage authentication protocols? And tell me also why this is a better option, you think?
Yeah, without going into technical detail, plus I'm not a technician, so I'd rather not do that. But for example, I mentioned the YubiKey 5 series a little earlier. So the 5 series is a multi-protocol key, and this key supports OTP for any legacy systems. It supports PIV smart card, as I mentioned, U2F, which is universal second factor, and FIDO2 and NFC, all in one key. So this allows users to securely access online accounts across desktops and mobile with the simple touch of a key. And I'll elaborate that on a little bit to sort of try and get over the whole password management issue that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So within the back office, whatever that, let's say it's Azure, or whatever front end, you should have the ability to select the option to use a security key as your authenticator. You select that, and what you can do is you retain your username, your password is replaced by a PIN number, and then you are then asked to touch the key. So the key's not biometric. Even though we do a biometric key, the key isn't biometric. It's got a capacitive touch element to the key, and it's that human touch, that proof of presence, that knows that there's a human in the room, if you will. You can't be done anything remotely. So it's username, PIN, touch the key, and then you're authenticated, and you're into your service.
And we'll have a lot of business leaders listening who maybe they want to increase security for their teams, especially because those teams now have this expectation to work from anywhere, anytime, any device, any network at any time.
Yeah.
If they're looking for a solution of improving security on here without harming the user experience, without increasing friction, etc., can you just walk me through how it works and maybe walk me through a use case?
I'll certainly try. Use cases are interesting. Trying to get one that again isn't too sort of complicated or convoluted, but I'll try. So one-time passcodes, mobile push notifications, SMS codes are still probably 80 to 90% of MFA out there.
Yeah.
And as we know, there are popular mobile authentication apps out there as well. But even these apps are just provide the OTPs or the notifications, which aren't 100% phishing resistant, and hackers can still and do fool users to intercept these codes. So with the YubiKey, even if the user is fooled into giving up their personal information via a very realistic looking copied website, for example, the YubiKey can't be fooled. So how it works is their credentials are built on strong public key cryptography, and bound to the service the key is authenticating to, if that makes sense. Yeah. So if I am fooled into clicking a link on a website, on an email link that looks very realistic, and it takes me to another part of this false website, I enter my credentials, the website copies those credentials. If the YubiKey is set up, you'll then be asked to touch the YubiKey to then authenticate into that service. But because the key is already bound to the true service, the authentication will fail. So you'll never actually get into that, or the remote hacker will never actually be able to fully get your credentials, because you won't be allowed to authenticate to that false service. And that's how the key can't be fooled, and we can proudly say 100% non-phishable. But you can't fool that key.
Wow, and that is like the number one problem for businesses right now, especially when people are working from any PC and are clicking on links. Attacks are so much more sophisticated now as well. You can go on LinkedIn, find out where the CEO is at a conference somewhere, fake an email and put it out. It's so sophisticated now how they catch people out, isn't it?
It is, and it's how it happens all the time. Social engineering is still the number one way of getting the details. I think there's been some very, very public attacks in the States in particular. I think there's a Colonial Pipeline attack where the government actually did pay a ransom, and I do believe the FBI have got some of that ransom back, but still these hackers did manage to get money out of the US government because and it was all down to poor MFA in the first place, but also social engineering. They logged in, they didn't really hack in.
And I appreciate you probably can't mention any names at all, but do you get to hear any feedback stories from clients on the kind of difference that this technology is making?
Yeah, well, like I say, case studies are pretty difficult to come by, but we do have a few. And I guess just to name drop, we can name drop Google, Facebook, Twitter. They all employees are issued with YubiKeys. Which is fantastic for us. Google in particular, many years ago did have a breach, so they went to market to find, something more. Actually, U2F was a Google and Yubico, but a protocol that we came up with that actually became FIDO. So once Google did due diligence and decided on we want to go ahead with YubiKeys, every employee at Google was given a YubiKey, and ever since then, Google have had zero breaches because every employee uses YubiKeys now to access important information.
Wow, that's incredible. When you said there, you can't mention too many names, but then you just dropped the biggest names in tech just like that. So blow me away a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to do that, and still very good customers of Yubico to this day. So probably from day one, Google have been with Yubico.
And you said you're FIDO compliant, and I've spoken with the guys at FIDO several times on here about that dream of a passwordless future. And what you're creating here seems very close to that. But how far away do you think we are from a future of secure, passwordless future? Are we getting closer?
I think we are getting closer. If I knew, I'd be putting the lottery numbers on Friday. So even though password is certainly a massive hot topic, I do think it'll take more from a variety of players in the industry to be confident in the whole passwordless journey. I guess zero trust is helping with that. And we are certainly having a lot more conversations on the topic, but put a time frame on it, I don't know, 3, 5, 10 years, I don't know, but we're on the path. I think that's the main thing.
Well, I've loved chatting with you today. We began the podcast talking about your origin story, what put you on this path. And as we come full circle, I'm going to ask you to leave everyone listening with something now. And that is a book that you've read recently that has inspired you or important to you. And we'll add that to our Amazon wish list for listeners to check out. But what are you going to leave us with and why?
Okay, fantastic. Well, there's a few things that I could have left us with. But I guess one book that's really inspired me is by a gentleman called David Goggins. The book is called Can't Hurt Me. And Goggins is a retired US Navy SEAL, which is, tough enough to get in. Oh, sorry, that's my watch. Tough getting into being a Navy SEAL in the first place. But he's an ultra marathon runner. He's an ultra distance cyclist. He's a triathlete. He's a world record holder, and he's a public speaker. Now, I'm a pretend runner. I'm a shuffler. I do like to run. I've done a couple of marathons, which is hard. I know how hard that is. But the main thing about this book is it actually starts at his childhood. He had a really, really difficult upbringing, very abusive relationship with his father. He had a terrible stutter when he was younger, wasn't, that academic, and he could quite easily have got on to do nothing at all. And he just bettered himself. And he's by no means like a motivational coach or anything like that. It's really a case of tough love, and when you feel, and it resonated with me when it came to running more than anything, because when you feel like you want to give up, you need to, and this is to coin one of his sayings, you need to callous your mind, because it really is, mind over matter isn't anything new. But just the way that David Goggins explains how he does it and what he does to get more out of the tank, if you will, it's just really, really, really quite astonishing and and amazing, really, what he's done. So when I'm out running, I don't listen to music now. I listen to David Goggins. And I got Audible, and it's really good because part of the book they also do a podcast as well. Interestingly, so you sort of get a chapter of the book, you get a podcast with David Goggins speaking himself, then more of the book, and it's just an unbelievable story. So yeah, highly recommend David Goggins. Can't Hurt Me.
Well, as a fellow shuffler that's managed to do 3 half marathons, but never managed to even get close to doing the marathon, I will definitely be checking that out. And I use Audible as well, so I'll be listening to that, and I'll add it to our Amazon wish list. But for all things Yubico, what's the best starting point there for anybody that wants to maybe see a video of it in action, read more about it, contact your team? What's the best starting point?
Yeah, Yubico.com. Simple as that. The website is packed full of free, downloads, user guides, videos, more use cases. You can buy keys there individually. If you're a business looking at keys, then you can contact me. But first port of call is yubico.com.
Fantastic. Well, as we discussed there, we've seen this unprecedented shift in working cultures around the world, and hybrid working practices are here to stay, and businesses must ensure that their security strategies are fit for purpose. And as I said a few moments ago, every device, any location, any time, any network, it was frightening for IT departments at the moment. But I love what you've created here. Wish you the best of luck for the future. It'd be great to stay in touch and get you back on maybe later in the year, see how the trends are evolving this year. But just thank you for joining me today. Fantastic. Thanks, Neil. Really appreciate that. I must admit, when I asked Niall to share use cases, I didn't expect him to casually drop the names of the biggest names in tech. And I suspect it made you want to check it out too. So for anyone listening, I will add a video to the blog post associated with this episode over at techblogwriter.co.uk. And please let me know your thoughts on this, especially around strong authentication, how to implement that while at the same time reducing friction at login, because the two have always conflicted with each other. But I'm hopeful that will change now. But as always, let me know your thoughts. techblogwriteroutlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram at Neil C. Hughes. Let me know your thoughts on how we can solve this conundrum and what you thought of Yubico today. But that's it for today, so a big thank you for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger.